Have you ever felt drained, confused, or quietly diminished by someone who keeps saying, "I'm just trying to help"? No anger, no insults, just good intentions. Yet somehow, you walk away feeling smaller than before. This is one of the most dangerous psychological traps in human relationships. Not open hostility, but toxicity disguised as care. Not malice, but patterns that slowly erode your clarity, confidence, and peace. Stoic philosophy warns us about this exact danger. Marcus Aurelius reminded us that it's not events or people that disturb us, but the judgments we accept without examination. And when good intentions go unquestioned, they become the perfect hiding place for control, guilt, and quiet manipulation. In this video, we'll uncover 6 subtle toxic patterns that often hide behind kindness, advice, and concern. Not to turn you cynical, not to make you suspicious of everyone, but to give you clarity, because clarity is the first boundary of a Stoic mind. Stay with me. What you recognize today may protect your peace for years to come. 1. Help that makes you feel smaller. Help, when it's healthy, does one clear thing. It expands you. You feel more capable, more confident, more grounded in yourself, but there is another kind of help. It arrives politely. It sounds reasonable. It claims good intentions. And yet, every time it shows up, you shrink. You start doubting your decisions. You hesitate before acting. You feel less competent than you were before the help was offered. That's not support. That's a toxic pattern hiding behind usefulness. This pattern often begins subtly. Someone steps in just to make things easier. They correct small choices. They redo what you already did. They offer guidance you didn't ask for. Once, twice, then constantly. On the surface, nothing looks wrong. After all, they're helping, right? But notice the internal effect. And real help strengthens autonomy. Toxic help creates dependence. Instead of asking, "How can I support you?" they act as if the question has already been answered by them. Over time, the message becomes clear, even if it's never spoken. You can't do this without me. Stoic thinking cuts through this illusion quickly. A Stoic doesn't judge help by how generous it looks, but by what it produces inside the receiver. Does it build capability, or does it quietly replace it? Here's the critical distinction. Support says, "I trust your judgment." Control says, "I'll step in before you fail." One is empowering, the other is humiliating, often unintentionally, but no less damaging. And this is why this pattern is so dangerous. Because the person offering this kind of help may genuinely believe they're doing something good. There may be no conscious malice, but Stoicism reminds us that impact matters more than intention. If someone's presence consistently makes you second-guess yourself, walk on eggshells, or feel incompetent in areas you were once comfortable in, something is off. Pay attention to how your body reacts. Pay attention to the pause before you speak. Pay attention to the shrinking. Stoic wisdom teaches that virtue never diminishes another person's dignity. True assistance respects the other person's capacity to choose, learn, and even fail. Failure, after all, is part of growth. To constantly rescue someone from it is not kindness, it's interference. So what is the Stoic response here? Not confrontation, not accusation, not emotional explanation. The first response is awareness. You don't need to label the person as toxic. You only need to recognize the pattern. Then comes a quiet boundary. This can be as simple as pausing before accepting help, or saying calmly, "I've got this," or choosing not to over-explain your decisions. Stoic boundaries are not walls built in anger. They are lines drawn in clarity. You are not rejecting the person, you are protecting your agency. There is a powerful Stoic reminder worth holding on to here. Anything that truly helps you should make you stronger, not smaller. If the so-called help consistently leaves you doubting yourself, drained or dependent, you are not ungrateful for noticing that. You are being rational, and rationality, clear perception without emotional distortion, is the foundation of Stoic strength. Let this be your internal compass moving forward. When help arrives, don't ask how kind it sounds. Ask how it leaves you standing afterward, upright or diminished. 2. Advice you never asked for, that never stops. Advice, when it's invited, can be valuable. It offers perspective, it opens options, it respects choice. But unsolicited advice, especially when it keeps coming, is something else entirely. At first, it sounds harmless. Just a suggestion. I thought you might want to know. I'm only saying this because I care. Yet notice the pattern. You didn't ask. You didn't signal confusion. You didn't request guidance. And still the advice arrives. Again, and again, and again. This isn't generosity. It's intrusion disguised as concern. One-off advice can be innocent. Repeated, uninvited advice is a quiet assertion of authority. It sends an unspoken message. My judgment outranks yours. Over time, this creates a subtle hierarchy. When they become the knower, you become the learner, even when it's your own life. Stoic philosophy is very clear on this point. Wisdom is not imposed, it is offered and only received when consent is present. Without consent, advice turns into control, no matter how gently it's phrased. Here's the key Stoic distinction. Care asks permission. Control assumes permission. Someone who truly respects you will pause and ask, "Do you want my thoughts?" Someone who doesn't will keep talking, then call it kindness. And here's where many people get trapped. They feel uncomfortable pushing back because the advice sounds reasonable, because refusing it feels rude, because saying no clashes with the image of being open-minded or grateful. So they listen. They nod, they absorb, and slowly they lose trust in their own instincts. And that erosion is the real danger. Unwanted advice doesn't just clutter your mind, it replaces your inner authority with someone else's voice. Decisions stop coming from clarity and start coming from anticipation. What will they say if I do this? That's not guidance, that's dependence forming. Stoic discipline trains us to notice this shift early. Ask yourself one simple question. After interacting with this person, do you feel clearer or more confused? If advice leaves you doubting choices you were once confident about, something is wrong. Wisdom should sharpen judgment, not blur it. There's also a deeper psychological layer here. People who constantly give unsolicited advice are often managing their own anxiety. By correcting, advising, and directing others, they create a sense of control over uncertainty. Your life becomes the stage where they stabilize themselves. That doesn't make them evil, but it does make the pattern unsafe. Stoicism never asks you to diagnose motives. It asks you to observe effects. And the effect of chronic, unrequested advice is this: your agency gets crowded out. So, what is the Stoic response? Not arguing, not explaining your reasoning in detail, not trying to convince them you're capable. That only feeds the dynamic. The Stoic response is minimal clarity. Short, calm, final. I appreciate it, but I'm good. I've already decided. I'll handle this my way. No justification, no emotional charge, no follow-up debate. This is important. The moment you start explaining, you hand them the steering wheel again. Explanations invite evaluation. Boundaries end the exchange. The Stoicism teaches that you are not obligated to absorb every thought offered to you. Your mind is not a public space, it is a responsibility. And here is the principle to remember. Advice that respects you waits to be invited. Advice that ignores your autonomy will keep showing up until you stop letting it in. Choosing not to receive it is not arrogance, it's self-respect. As we move forward, keep this filter active in your mind. If someone truly wants what's best for you, they won't need to override your voice to prove it. Your life does not require a constant commentator. It requires a clear owner. 3. I know what's best for you. Few phrases sound more caring on the surface. Few phrases are more dangerous underneath. I know what's best for you. It can come from a parent, a partner, a friend, a mentor, and often it's delivered with concern, confidence, even warmth. But beneath it lies one of the clearest toxic patterns in human relationships: the removal of your authority over your own life. This statement doesn't invite discussion. It closes it. When someone says they know what's best for you, they are no longer relating to you as an equal agent. They are positioning themselves as the final judge of your choices, your timing, your limits, and your growth. Stoic philosophy sees this clearly. No one, no matter how well-intentioned, lives inside your mind, your body, or your circumstances. And to claim superior authority over another person's life is not wisdom, it's presumption. Here's the subtle trick. This pattern rarely announces itself as control. It appears as protection. They say they're saving you from mistakes, from pain, from regret. But ask yourself this: what happens to a person who is never allowed to choose wrong? They never learn, they never calibrate judgment, they never build inner strength. Stoics understood that growth requires friction. Errors are not failures of character, they are teachers. To constantly override someone's choices is to rob them of that process. And yet, when this pattern is wrapped in "I care about you," many people hesitate to resist it. They fear being seen as ungrateful, as reckless, as dismissive. So they comply, quietly. Over time, something shifts. You start outsourcing decisions. Yes, you hesitate before acting. You wait for approval, even internally. That's the real cost. Not the advice itself, but the slow erosion of self-trust. Stoicism draws a hard line here. Concern that respects you leaves room for refusal. Control does not. Control insists. It pressures. It frames disagreement as irresponsibility. Notice the language when this pattern is active. If you were smart, you'll regret it if you don't. I'm only saying this for your own good. Each phrase sounds helpful. Each one carries the same message. Your judgment cannot be trusted. Stoic awareness begins by separating intent from impact. The intent may be care. The impact is dependency. And again, Stoicism is not about villainizing people. It's about protecting inner sovereignty. So what is the Stoic response? Not rebellion, not argument, and not proving them wrong. The Stoic response is detachment with dignity. You don't need to convince them you're right. You only need to stop handing them authority. This can sound like, "I hear you, I'll decide. Thank you for your concern. I'm choosing differently. I understand your view. I'm comfortable with my choice." No debate, no defense, no emotional escalation. Here's a crucial Stoic insight. The moment you feel compelled to justify your life choices excessively, you've already stepped onto someone else's stage. Stoics choose not to perform. They understand that autonomy is not granted by others. It is exercised. And sometimes the most powerful move is not to persuade, but to proceed. Let this be your reminder. No one needs to agree with your path for it to be yours. Someone may truly believe they know what's best for you, but only you live with the consequences. And Stoic wisdom is clear on this point. Responsibility follows choice, so choice must remain yours. 4. Guilt disguised as concern. There is a kind of guilt that doesn't sound like accusation. It sounds like worry. I'm just concerned about you. I say this because I care. I would feel terrible if something happened to you. On the surface, these words seem loving, responsible, even protective. But pay attention to what happens inside you when you hear them. Do you feel supported, or do you feel pressured? This is one of the most subtle toxic patterns of all. Guilt used as leverage, hidden behind concern. Healthy concern offers information and then steps back. Toxic concern stays close and watches. It doesn't say, "Here's something to consider." It says, "If you don't listen to me, something bad will be your fault." Stoic philosophy is very precise here. Concern that respects you preserves freedom. Guilt removes it. And the moment concern turns into emotional obligation, it stops being care and starts becoming control. This pattern often works because it never attacks you directly. Instead, it activates your sense of responsibility for their emotional state. If you choose differently, they are worried. If you don't comply, they are hurt. If you assert independence, they are afraid for you. And slowly, without anyone saying it out loud, a transaction forms. Your choices must regulate their emotions. That is not love. That is emotional bargaining. Stoics warned against this long before modern psychology named it. Epictetus taught that we are responsible for our own judgments and reactions, never for managing the inner states of others. The moment you accept guilt for someone else's feelings, you surrender control over your own actions. And notice how this pattern traps people. You stop asking, "What do I believe is right?" You start asking, "How do I avoid making them upset?" That shift is quiet, but it's devastating. Because once guilt becomes the compass, clarity disappears. And here's the hardest truth. The person using this pattern may not even realize they're doing it. Their anxiety feels real. Their fear feels justified. But Stoicism reminds us that another person's anxiety does not obligate your obedience. Compassion does not require compliance. So what is the Stoic response? Not coldness, not dismissal, not cruelty. The Stoic response is emotional non-participation. You acknowledge the concern without accepting the guilt. This can sound like, "I understand you're worried. I hear that this makes you uncomfortable. I've thought about this carefully, and I'm okay with my decision." Notice what's missing. No apology for choosing. No reassurance loop. No promise to change. Because the moment you start soothing their guilt by sacrificing your clarity, the pattern deepens. Stoicism teaches that guilt is only useful when it points to a true moral failure. Choosing your own path is not a moral failure. Disappointing someone is not wrongdoing. Causing discomfort is not harm. Here is the Stoic line that matters most in situations like this. You can be kind without being compliant. Concern that loves you leaves you free. Concern that controls you needs your guilt to survive. And once you see this pattern clearly, it loses much of its power. You don't need to argue with it. You don't need to expose it. You simply stop paying the emotional price. Because your peace is not something you owe in exchange for someone else's comfort. 5. Kind words. Controlling actions. This pattern is especially confusing because everything sounds right. They speak gently. They use the right tone. They say the right things. "I respect you. I'm on your side. I only want what's best for you." But when you look past the words and observe the actions, something doesn't line up. Your choices are questioned. Your boundaries are tested. Your independence is quietly limited. This is where Stoic clarity becomes essential. Because Stoicism has always warned us not to judge by language, but by patterns of behavior. Kind words are easy. Respectful actions are not. A person can speak with warmth and still act in ways that restrict, override, or steer you without your consent. And when words and actions don't match, Stoic wisdom tells us exactly what to trust. Not intentions, not promises, but patterns. This toxic pattern works because it creates cognitive dissonance. You hear kindness, but you feel pressure. You're told you're respected, but your decisions are repeatedly challenged or redirected. Over time, this creates self-doubt. You start asking yourself, am I overreacting? Maybe they're right. They sound so reasonable. That doubt is the mechanism. Control rarely arrives loudly. It arrives softly, wrapped in politeness. It doesn't demand, it nudges. It doesn't forbid, it discourages. It doesn't command, it suggests again and again until the suggestion feels mandatory. Stoic philosophy strips this down to a simple rule. Watch what happens, not what is said. If someone truly respects you, their actions will leave space for your decisions, even the ones they disagree with. They may express concern once. They may offer perspective, but they won't repeatedly interfere. Control, on the other hand, shows up as repetition, repeated steering, repeated correction, repeated help that always points in the same direction. And notice another key sign. When you resist, even calmly, the tone changes. The kindness tightens. The patience thins. Subtle irritation appears. That reaction reveals the truth. Because genuine care can tolerate disagreement. Control cannot. Stoics never argued with words when actions were already speaking. Marcus Aurelius reminded himself daily to observe people as they are, not as they claim to be. So what is the Stoic response here? Not calling out hypocrisy, not exposing contradictions, not confronting tone. The Stoic response is silent evaluation. You step back, you reduce emotional disclosure, and you stop oversharing plans that invite interference. You don't punish, you adjust access. This is crucial. Stoic boundaries are not dramatic. They are quiet calibrations. You give less information to those who misuse it. You reserve vulnerability for those whose actions have earned trust. And here is the grounding principle to hold. Words tell you how someone wants to be seen. Actions show you who they are. When kindness and control travel together, believe the control. Not with anger, with clarity. Because clarity dissolves confusion, and confusion is the environment where toxic patterns thrive. Once you stop listening to reassurance and start observing behavior, this pattern loses its disguise. What remains is simple information. And information is something a Stoic knows exactly how to use. 6. When your peace is always the price. This is the final pattern, and it is the clearest one. If every interaction leaves you unsettled, if every good intention comes with tension, if every compromise costs your peace, then the truth is already in front of you. No matter how kind the words sound, no matter how caring the story is, no matter how often they say, "I'm doing this for you." When your inner calm is always what gets sacrificed, something is wrong. Stoic philosophy treats peace not as a luxury, but as a signal. Peace is the natural state of a rational, aligned mind. When peace consistently disappears around a certain pattern, it's not coincidence, it's information. This pattern often shows up last because it's the hardest to admit. You tell yourself, they mean well. They've always been like this. Maybe I'm too sensitive. But Stoicism doesn't ask how long you've tolerated something. It asks what it's doing to your character. If you feel tense before speaking, if you rehearse your words to avoid reactions, if you leave conversations mentally exhausted, your nervous system already understands what your mind is trying to rationalize. True care does not require constant emotional labor. True concern does not demand that you shrink, manage, or self-censor. And here is the Stoic distinction that matters most. Anything that requires you to abandon your inner stability in order to maintain harmony is not harmony at all. It's self-erasure. This doesn't mean the other person is malicious. It doesn't mean you must accuse, confront, or cut them off dramatically. Stoicism is quieter than that. It teaches discernment. You notice where your peace goes missing. You notice the pattern, and then you stop paying that price. That might look like shorter conversations, fewer explanations, less emotional availability, more distance without hostility, not punishment, not revenge, just alignment. Marcus Aurelius wrote that you should not allow your mind to be enslaved by another person's turbulence. Your peace is not a resource others are entitled to draw from endlessly. Here is the rule to carry forward. Good intentions that cost your peace are no longer good for you. Peace is not selfish. Peace is not weakness. Peace is the ground from which wise action comes. And once you understand this, you no longer need to analyze every intention, decode every motive, or argue with every pattern. You simply choose yourself, quietly, clearly, and without guilt. That is not withdrawal. That is stoic strength. When you step back and look at all 6 patterns together, one truth becomes unavoidable. Toxicity is not defined by cruelty. It is defined by erosion. Erosion of confidence, erosion of clarity, erosion of peace. And the most dangerous erosion happens slowly, so slowly that you don't notice it until you've already adjusted yourself too many times. This is why good intentions are such an effective disguise. They short-circuit your rational defenses. You don't want to seem ungrateful. You don't want to be unfair. You don't want to question someone who appears caring. So instead of questioning the pattern, you question yourself. Stoic philosophy exists precisely to interrupt this habit, not by telling you who is right or wrong, but by restoring your ability to see clearly without emotional distortion. A Stoic does not ask, do they mean well? A Stoic asks, what is this doing to my character? That question changes everything, because once you ask it honestly, the fog lifts. You realize that many patterns don't need to be confronted to be neutralized. They only need to be seen accurately. Clarity removes their leverage. You stop over-explaining. You stop negotiating your boundaries. You stop participating in emotional loops that drain you. Not because you're cold, but because you're grounded. This is where many people misunderstand Stoicism. They think Stoicism teaches emotional detachment from others. It doesn't. It teaches attachment to reason. Reason notices patterns without resentment. The reason sets boundaries without hostility. Reason walks away without needing the last word. That is strength. Another important Stoic principle applies here. You are not obligated to maintain proximity to what destabilizes you. Not every relationship deserves the same level of access. Not every voice deserves the same weight. Not every intention deserves the benefit of the doubt forever. Marcus Aurelius reminded himself that just as the body avoids unhealthy food, the mind must avoid unhealthy influences. Not angrily, not dramatically, simply as an act of self-preservation. And here is the subtle shift that happens when you internalize this. You stop needing closure from others. You stop waiting for them to understand. You stop hoping they will change. Instead, you change how much of you is available. That is not avoidance. That is wisdom. Because Stoicism teaches that peace is not something you negotiate with others. It is something you cultivate through disciplined perception and deliberate choice. Once you recognize toxic patterns hiding behind good intentions, you don't become suspicious of everyone. If there's one thing Stoic philosophy teaches us clearly, it's this. Clarity is not cruelty, and boundaries are not rejection. Throughout this video, you've seen how toxic patterns don't always look hostile. More often, they arrive politely, wrapped in advice, concern, protection, and good intentions. And yet the result is always the same. Your confidence shrinks, your judgment weakens, your peace slowly disappears. Stoicism doesn't ask you to harden your heart. It asks you to steady your mind. You're not here to manage other people's anxieties. You're not here to live according to someone else's fear, guilt, or need for control. You're here to act with reason, dignity, and self-respect. Remember this: you don't need permission to choose clarity. You don't need agreement to set boundaries. And you don't need to explain your way into peace. The most powerful Stoic move is often the quietest one: seeing the pattern, accepting the truth, and adjusting your distance without resentment. If this video helped you recognize something clearly today, let that be enough. Awareness is already a form of freedom. If you found value here, take a moment to share it with someone who may be confused, loyal, or quietly exhausted. And if this kind of Stoic clarity speaks to you, stay with the channel. Until next time, protect your peace. Not aggressively, not defensively, but rationally. Because nothing that costs your inner stability is ever worth the price.